Tracy Sable tonight on EWTN News Nightly. Upheaval in Syria. Rebels take over the country as former President Bashar al-Assad flees to Russia. What it could mean for the faithful there. Confirmation battle. Top cabinet picks for President-elect Trump are meeting with senators. We're on Capitol Hill. Screen time. Analysis of a new Netflix film about the Blessed Virgin Mary, plus open door policy. A report from France as Notre Dame Cathedral is hosting services again 5 years after a devastating fire. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thanks for being with us on the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Our top story tonight, Syrian rebels have toppled the Assad regime, forcing the dictator into exile. This is Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani declaring victory in Damascus, Syria. Al-Jawlani is the leader of the rebel group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. After a lightning campaign through the country, rebel forces seized control of Damascus unopposed on Sunday. And here is a better look at what happened over the weekend. Last week, the Assad regime still held the extreme western parts of the country. This is what it looks like today. Rebel forces now occupying that government forces once held. The takeover is an abrupt end to what has been somewhat of a stalemate in the Syrian civil war, with everything changing just 2 weeks ago. On November 27th, armed forces launched a large-scale attack in northwestern Syria, taking over a slew of villages. On November 29th, the rebels entered Aleppo, which fell the next day. Then, in the first week of December, rebels fought for and won control of the critical cities of Hama and Homs that entered Damascus itself, taking the city unopposed. Bashar al-Assad fled the country and is now in Russia, a principal ally. The fall of the Assad regime has sent shockwaves across the globe. The Biden administration says that it's an open question as to who is running Syria tonight, and the period of uncertainty is a cause for concern. All this as the U.S. continues to go after ISIS terrorists in the region. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
That's right, Tracy. U.S. forces launched dozens of airstrikes targeting ISIS in central Syria. The White House National Security Council spokesman addressed that earlier today, saying the strikes were very successful in going after legitimate ISIS targets.
We have kept the pressure up on ISIS now through the entire 4 years of this administration through these kinds of strikes. We'll continue to do that as we see valid threats. So I'm certainly not going to rule anything off the table in terms of additional strikes on ISIS.
Meanwhile, with Assad now toppled and the rebels now in control, the U.S. is keeping a very close eye on what they actually do, not what they say.
But we're going to have to watch and see what they actually do, which is why we're having conversations with our counterparts in coming days. You'll see the president on the phone with leaders in the region here in coming days.
On Sunday, President Joe Biden addressed the nation. He warned some of the rebel groups that took down Assad have their own grim record of terrorism and human rights abuses. Also saying now is an opportunity for Syrians to forge their own future free of opposition.
It's a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future for their proud country. It's also a moment of risk and uncertainty.
Also, with Assad gone from power, new hope to bring home Austin Tice, the missing American journalist from Houston, who disappeared 12 years ago near the Syrian capital and hasn't been heard from since.
And with every party we engage, we'll continue to seek information about Austin Tice so that we can find him and bring him home to his family and loved ones.
And while I was at the State Department today, I also asked about Christians in Syria.
Christians in Syria, other religious minorities there. With HTS now in control, how will their religious freedom be monitored by the U.S.?
Well, this goes to exactly what I was speaking of when I said we're going to judge HTS by its actions, as we will judge every group inside Syria by their actions. And one of the foremost things that we want to see protected in Syria are the rights of religious and ethnic minorities.
And Secretary Antony Blinken also said today the developments in Syria create a historic opportunity, but also carry considerable risks. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, thank you so much, Owen, for that. And joining us now in the studio is Nadine Menza, the president of International Religious Freedom Secretariat and Global Fellow at the Wilson Center. She is also the former chair of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. Nadine, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I know that you know Syria very well. You were there recently. Were you surprised by these developments? Did you see this coming?
I was very surprised. I did understand HTS had been reaching out to former rivals and asking for their support, and clearly they'd had this in the works for a long time.
Yeah, what more can you tell us about HTS and its leader? I know had ties to Al-Qaeda, and I believe is still on a terror watch list in the United States, or listed as a terrorist.
He is. So HTS that oversees Idlib it's considered an entity of particular concern for their severe violations of religious freedom. And last year, the New York Times wrote an article about the last Christian left in Idlib. So when there's only one Christian left in a place, it usually means it's a pretty harsh place under Sharia law for religious minorities to leave. So I've been promised personally by HTS representatives that they would not rule the country the same way.
Yeah, I know Bishop Hannah Jalif spoke with Asimina, which is our Arabic-speaking partner here at EWTN, about these developments in Syria, and he said that he had assurances that the Christians will remain an integral part of Syria's society and that they're not going to touch the churches and properties. How confident are you in that?
I believe some of the people that tell me that's what they hope will happen. I do know this is a very diverse group of jihadists, so they're not all the same flavor, they're not the same group. For instance, as we speak right now, we have Turkish-backed militias called the Syrian National Army, or the CNAs, that just within the last few days attacked 65,000 Kurds, Christians, and Yazidis. We saw horrible atrocities, firsthand accounts of beheadings, of people being burned, mass shootings, forcing 100,000 to flee to northeast Syria. And so, in fact, one of the eyewitnesses said that the HTS actually interrupted the massacre. So a lot going on right now, but this environment has created a dangerous situation for some religious minorities, especially now as we're seeing Turkey bomb the northeast to back these Islamist militias that are going into northeast and really tend to target the religious minorities there.
Yeah, and what are you hearing from people there? I know you're really tied in.
Yeah, so the people are very afraid of these particular, of all of what's happening. They have not seen attacks against religious minorities. I think it's important to understand the HTS and the Southern Operations Room and all the coalition of groups that toppled Assad did not really cause civilian deaths. They did not go after civilians, and we did see the religious minorities protected, but especially Christian converts, Yazidis, and others who have been specifically targeted by extremists are very unsettled right now, and I think everyone is waiting to see how they will treat these communities.
Yeah, wait and see approach. Nadine, thank you so much for coming on. We always appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
God bless. Well, Pope Francis has also weighed in after the fall of the Assad regime. The Holy Father used his weekly Angelus to plead for peace in Syria and across the globe. He said, "I appeal to governments and the international community that a ceasefire may be reached on all war fronts by the Christmas celebrations." Back here in the United States, Tulsi Gabbard, the president-elect's pick to be director of national intelligence, met with senators on Capitol Hill as part of her confirmation process. Her first conversations with lawmakers were also colored by the fall of the Assad regime in Syria, putting a spotlight on Gabbard's past remarks about him. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us now with more. Eric.
Good evening, Tracy. Yes, Gabbard, who served in the U.S. House for 8 years as a Democrat, is being scrutinized over a 2017 controversial trip that she made to Syria to meet with the Syrian president at the time, Bashar al-Assad. Now, after that meeting, Gabbard said that Assad is not an enemy of the United States because Syria does not pose a direct threat to the U.S. Her comments came despite Assad later using biological weapons, killing thousands of his own people. In 2020, the Congresswoman was also critical of the Trump administration after the assassination of an Iranian commander, calling it an act of war and claiming that there was no justification. In the past, Gabbard also made statements sympathizing with Russia and President Vladimir Putin's ongoing war with Ukraine. Well, this afternoon, we caught up with her just before her meeting with Senator Mike Rounds. Neither spoke, but Senator Rounds had this to say about President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet picks.
We want the president to be successful. We give the president the benefit of the doubt in building his team. but we also want to ask the questions that the public would ask, and to be able to get those questions out so that the public has confidence that we've made the right choices as well.
Gabbard has a tough road ahead over her past statements. Just days ago, nearly 100 former national security officials, alarmed at the thought of Gabbard leading the intel community, wrote a letter to senators, urging them to, quote, carefully evaluate whether Gabbard is equipped for the position. Today, some 250 veterans released a letter supporting her nomination. Lawmakers on both sides say they have concerns that need to be addressed.
And it does call into question whether a person who held those outrageous views could suddenly be sitting next to the President of the United States and have the last word as he makes decisions about how the U.S. should respond to a situation like this.
Well, I obviously differ in a great deal in a number of areas with both her judgment and her background and experience.
Also, Pete Hegseth, Trump's nominee to be defense secretary, was back on the Hill meeting with more senators, including another huddle with Senator Joni Ernst, which he needs to be confirmed. Senator Ernst made her most expansive comments yet on Hegseth, telling attendees at a California security conference over the weekend that she needs to hear more from the embattled defense secretary pick after allegations surfaced of concerning drinking habits and even sexual misconduct.
I am a survivor of sexual assault, so I've worked very heavily on sexual assault measures within the military. So I'd like to hear a little more about that. I'd like to hear about the role of women in our great United States military.
President-elect Donald Trump continues to support Hegseth in a Truth Social post on Friday, saying Hegseth will be a fantastic leader, a day after Senator Ernst said that she isn't ready to support him. So the confirmation process continues up here on Capitol Hill. Hearings will begin in January. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including a break in the case. Police name a strong person of interest in the shooting of a healthcare executive, what we know about the man in custody. And after 5 years, Notre Dame is now open. We take you to Paris to experience the historic event. City officials say they have a, quote, strong person of interest in the deadly shooting last week of United Healthcare's CEO.
Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson.
Mangione was taken into custody after being spotted at a Pennsylvania McDonald's. According to law enforcement officials, the suspect had writings critical of the healthcare industry and a gun consistent with the one used in the killing. Well, the South Korean Justice Ministry has imposed an overseas travel ban on the nation's president following his short-lived declaration last week of martial law. Authorities are investigating allegations of rebellion and other charges in connection with last week's martial law declaration. Over the weekend, President Yoon survived an impeachment bid. Opposition parties have vowed to submit a new motion. A sitting South Korean president has immunity from prosecution while in office. It does not extend to allegations of rebellion or treason. Well, there are now 21 new cardinals in the Catholic Church. Pope Francis created them over the weekend, and EWTN's Vatican team had the opportunity to speak with one of them, the head of the Archdiocese of Toronto in Canada.
More prayer. Absolutely. We need to get back to praying, learning how to pray and pray with all our hearts, the different kinds of prayers that the church has within her long history, the witnessing that we can give, and then strong families and strong parish communities with a missionary aspect to know that our faith is nourished and we pray, but now how can we bring other people into the family of the church? We need to keep asking ourselves that question and try to find creative ways of reaching out to others to bring them to Jesus and bring Jesus to them and propose this new life. It's a new life to live with Jesus and for Jesus as a Christian. And this is the greatest gift we have. And we want to proclaim it and share it with everybody.
Cardinal Francis Leo is also the Pope's only pick from North America. The 53-year-old stressed the importance of preaching the gospel to all. He also reminded the faithful that prayer remains the cornerstone of our faith. Notre Dame Cathedral reopened its doors for worship 5 years after a fire left it in ruins. And to mark the occasion, Pope Francis sent a heartfelt message of gratitude and hope. EWTN Vatican News correspondent Colin Flynn has a report from Paris.
After 5 years of restoration, Archbishop of Paris Laurent Ulrich knocked on the doors of Notre Dame. Inside, the 8,000 pipe organ filled the cathedral and a choir sang out in joy. The restored cathedral gleamed with clean stone, repainted structures, and vibrant stained glass windows. Attendees included the United Kingdom's Prince William, US First Lady Jill Biden, Ukrainian President Zelensky, and President-elect Donald Trump, standing alongside French President Macron. Notably absent was Pope Francis, who chose to decline the invitation. The following morning, on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, the first Mass was celebrated inside the cathedral and the altar consecrated. The Gothic cathedral was alive again, a major feat of restoration. When the fire tore through the Cathedral of Notre Dame in 2019, many people feared that France and the world had just lost one of its great treasures. The tragedy sparked an outpouring of global solidarity and support, with people worldwide pledging nearly $800 million to restore the cathedral. And the man tasked with leading the effort was Chief Architect Philippe Villeneuve.
It was an enormous amount of work. I realize it now, looking at where we came from. I'm really amazed by the beauty, amazed by the work, by the quality of work.
Many people said that to restore a cathedral of this size and complexity over just 5 years would be impossible. But Philippe Villeneuve said it was his faith that pushed him forward.
I have a particular devotion to the Virgin Mary, and I never stopped feeling support coming from up there.
In the week before its reopening, President Emmanuel Macron inspected the work, including the new altar, the white stone and gold details, and the restored bells. He was guided by Notre Dame's rector, Father Olivier Ribou-Dumas.
It fills me with pride, but at the same time, I'm humble because I realize the immensity of what has been done, and also the immensity of how it was built 860 years ago. And now that it has been rebuilt, the mission has been entrusted in me to bring it to life. I have to make sure it is a place of prayer, so that it is a place of celebration, and so that it is a place of discovery of faith.
When the fire broke out in 2019, Cécile Thivignon was among those who gathered by the River Seine to sing and pray.
We thought that the cathedral would crumble. Then we were praying, basically, or singing, and I discovered that at this moment, French people are deeply attached to this cathedral.
And now she hopes it will give a boost to the faith in France.
It's not only about a building, but about the Virgin Mary and God that we are praising, celebrating there.
And with that, the doors of the stunning Notre Dame Cathedral have reopened, ready to welcome once again pilgrims and worshippers from all over the world. In Paris, France, Colin Flynn, EWTN News Nightly.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, Flower Power. Pope Francis takes a step toward honoring the Blessed Virgin Mary. Plus, the review is in. Learn what the National Catholic Register is saying about the new Netflix film on the Blessed Virgin Mary. Marked the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception in Rome with a spiritual journey that included a little bit of walking. Take a look at this powerful image of the Holy Father walking with a bouquet of white flowers to the pillar dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary near the Spanish Steps in Rome. He said the flowers symbolize the love and gratitude of the faithful.
Our mother's gaze sees beyond, and I seem to hear her voice wisely telling us, "My children, these jobs are going well, but be careful. Don't forget the construction sites of the soul. The real Jubilee is inside your hearts." You tell us.
The Pope also acknowledged the challenges posed by the construction work in preparation for the 2025 Jubilee, but reminded everyone that the real preparation is inside each one of us. Well, finally tonight, Netflix has released a nearly 90-minute movie on the life of the Blessed Virgin.
I don't know why I was chosen for this.
Mary is from Catholic director DJ Caruso. It stars Anthony Hopkins as King Herod and Israeli actress Noah Cohen as Mary. Scriptwriters consulted Christian, Jewish, and Muslim leaders to make the movie as accurate as possible. A recent story in the National Catholic Register says the movie has every intention of being referential, but does it succeed? And for analysis, we turn now to Joseph Pronishin, staff writer with the National Catholic Register and also a former teacher of film at a Catholic high school in Connecticut. Joseph, great to be with you today. A lot to get to, but first, what did you think when you heard that Netflix was making a movie about the Blessed Virgin Mary, and what did you think about the movie?
Well, first of all, when I heard that they were making this particular film, I was hoping for the best. I said we should have more films about the Holy Family, about the Blessed Mother, maybe, and that way with the Holy Family getting St. Joseph's there too. But once I saw the film, it had its pluses and it had its minuses, and I was a little disappointed in several respects. I was happy in some, I must say. So, but then I was disappointed in a few. I was happy with the fact that they tried to do a good job, okay? At least they had the best of intentions to do this. They used an all-Israeli cast, pretty much all Israeli. Did not matter whether they were all Israeli or not, but the director told me in a separate interview that I had with him that he wanted to get an authentic feeling, and if you use star power, people were going to be interested in a star, and he wanted to be more interested in Mary because he wanted to bring devotion to the Blessed Mother to the forefront. And the age was pretty much right in a sense because this was a young actress, and she had to play an older teen and at the particular time, so that kind of worked with the film. But then. Along the way, when she begins, she says, "My name is Mary, and you think you know my story, but trust me, you don't." Well, unfortunately, there were parts where the filmmakers didn't seem to know her story either. It wasn't totally Catholic. They used supposed experts from Christians, Catholics, Protestants, Muslims even they got in here. And there was just too many cooks spoiling the broth, I think, in that regard. And it went through over 70 rewrites. And the more you tampered with something, the worse it can become.
Joseph, before I let you go, would you recommend this movie? And also, are there other movies about the Blessed Virgin that you may recommend to us?
Yes. First of all, I would recommend this film with reservations. I would say don't necessarily not see it. It works very good dramatically in a Hollywood sense, okay? It works dramatically that way. And you do get some indication of the nativity. You get of it Mary and of Joseph. Joseph's kind of young here. They get the age pretty close to what Joseph would have likely been. His mother Angelica said, "Old men don't walk to Egypt." So they get a younger Joseph in here. But this should want people to, or inspire people to, let me find the true story of Mary. Let me do that. Now, one of the movies that's coming out on December 12th with the Marian Fathers actually behind it, wonderful. I Am the Immaculate Conception, it's called, and it is beautifully done. And it's a docudrama. It's going to be in theaters the 12th, the 14th, and the 17th. You have to check your local listings for time and place. But that I highly recommend. It's superb. It's one of the best Marys I have ever seen portrayed in the dramatic elements of it, the dramatic parts of it. And you're getting the true story of Mary with the Immaculate Conception here from the Marian fathers themselves and a couple of other priests. So that is a don't miss movie at all. And you could watch this other one, but that should spur you on to learn more about Mary.
All right. Well, Joseph, thank you so much for coming on and for talking to us about all of this. We appreciate it. God bless you.
You're welcome, Tracy. You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night and God bless.